Welcome to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CRE PN Radio. Thanks for joining us. My name is Jay Darren Gross. This is the podcast focused on commercial real estate investment and risk management strategies. Weekly, we have conversations with commercial real estate investors and professionals who provide their experience and insight to help you grow your real estate portfolio. Today's program is sponsored by Building Insurance and Risk. When you invest in real estate, you need to protect yourself and your investment from catastrophic loss. The experts at Building Insurance and Risk can provide you with multiple offers and a side-by-side coverage comparison. To learn more, go to buildinginsurancerisk.com. Today, my guest is Andy Gurczak. Andy is the founder of All City Adjusting, a licensed public adjusting firm. Andy immigrated to America from Poland with his family at the age of 9, and after working in the construction industry, more specifically fire restoration, he discovered his true calling, public adjusting. This discovery was largely thanks to Herb Johnson, the first African-American public adjuster in Illinois, who took Andy under his wing. And in just a minute, we're going to speak with Andy about the benefits of a public adjuster and why you should have one on your team. But first, a couple of things you can help us out with if you like our show, CREPN Radio. If you do like the podcast, please consider subscribing and also like and sharing the program where you can. And as also, we always encourage our listeners to leave a comment. We love to hear from our listeners. Also, if you want to see how handsome our guests are, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. You can find us on YouTube at Commercial Real Estate Pro Network. And while you're there, please subscribe. With that, I want to welcome my guest, Andy. Welcome to CREPN Radio.
Darren, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. And thanks for that bio.
Yeah, well, I am really looking forward to our conversation. As you know, I'm an insurance broker, and your world and mine kind of cross path quite a bit, and so the more I can learn and recognize the services you provide are going to be more beneficial to my clients. But before we get started, if you could take just a minute and share with the listeners a little bit about your background.
Correct. So I was in, as you kind of mentioned in the intro, I was in construction, restoration, I had my own company, and then kind of shifted into public adjusting when I met Herb Johnson, who you mentioned, who was a big influence on me and kind of taught me the business. He was actually in the industry for about over 40 years. So he learned everything, knew everything. So, I was fortunate enough to get, 40 years of education in about 2-3 years. And that brings me to today where, we're licensed public adjusting company serving 14 states with a big staff and kind of specializing on large losses, especially fires, commercial roofing, large water losses, and other losses like that.
Awesome. So you mentioned Herb, and I'm just kind of curious, from going from construction into this.
Mm-hmm.
Insurance isn't always considered the sexy, exciting world, and certainly claims aren't. I wouldn't think that people would go, "Wow, I want to get into that kind of thing." What was it that drew you in?
We was already doing restoration. And when I started talking to Herb and he explained to me what he does, and I kind of knew a little bit about what he does because he worked with some contractors, and when clients asked him for referrals, he'd refer them, especially in Illinois, a contractor can refer, or a public adjuster can refer contractors. So I actually met him on the job. He kind of explained to me what he does, and it really liked what he did. I mean, he was able to help people really recover money, get bigger settlements. So everything that he kind of did and he explained to me drew my interest, and just kind of took a liking into it. And I was fortunate enough that he was kind of on his way out, retiring, and kind of took me under his wing.
No, that's awesome.
Big credit to him. So
yeah, well, it's how lucky were you to have somebody that with so much experience that was willing to take you and teach you and get you started.
Took me I think almost 2 years to get him on my team.
Oh, really?
I was very persistent. Correct. He didn't originally want to help me or want to teach me. I was young. I was in my 20s, early 20s. So he didn't really want to help me, kind of persistent. And eventually he said, okay, I'll take you under the wing and kind of show you the business. So
Got it. Well, let's start with just what is the difference between a company adjuster and a public adjuster? I mean, from my perspective as an insurance broker, when a fire happens, and fire is probably the easiest example that we can use. Uh, Fire department shows up, they put out the fire, you're aware of it, call your insurance agent, the agent turns in the claim, company adjuster shows up, maybe meets with contractors, the fire department, uh, make an offer, and then like pay a partial settlement, and then wait for you, the insured, to try and figure out the balance of it, put it back together. How if that's the normal working through a company adjuster, how is it that a public adjuster works differently, or how
correct.
are you different?
So let's start with everyone that shows up to the property, whether it's the contractor, the vendors, the adjuster, whether it's company, independent, everyone's working for that insurance company, and everyone's getting paid by the insurance company. So everyone's interest is the insurance company or bottom dollar. Whereas we only can work for the insured, and our interest is the insured, and to get him a max settlement, to make sure that his claim is settled properly, not only for the max amount, but in a timely manner that it gets paid, right? Not 6 months, but rather 3 or 2 months. So we can't work for the insurance company per our license and per state guidelines. We can only represent the insured.
Got it. So at what point, or how does one go about recognizing or deciding that they need a public adjuster?
So most clients will call us once something's happened. So let's just say a claim is being handled for 2 to 3 months, and they start researching. What's going on? Why are they not talking to me? Why are they lowballing me? What's going on? They start researching, and that's when they find us. For our long-term clients that we've had, our investors, our landlords, our business owners, they'll call us as soon as something happens. And that's really when you want to call a PA. If I can give anyone any advice, have a PA on your team. If it's a real estate, and if you don't have a real estate team, and either way, you want to call that PA right away and have him inspect it, make sure that it's an insurable loss, and then have him call the claim in, because he will say everything the right way. He will set the reserves the right way, and that way your claim from A to from the beginning to the end will get handled fairly. But not only fairly, you get a max settlement. You'll get everything you're owed. There is going to be no low ball offers or anything like that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, because I think that one of the frustrations that most people have is that they buy insurance their whole lives, and maybe once in a blue moon they have the need to use it or have a claim, and it's in that moment that all of a sudden they're in this world of nothing seems like what they bought. Things don't work the way they thought. I think most people have this notion that the insurance company, the adjuster is going to come with a toolbox and fix whatever the problem is and put it all back together. Um, how is it that you guys are able to? I mean, can you expand a little bit on that? Is it the fact that you're in this all the time, that these insurance companies, the way they want to work? Tell me a little bit more about how it is that you are able to, um, you know, speak the insurance lingo, or get that maximum settlement?
Let's start with what you said, where clients say, we get that all the time. We paid insurance 20 years, 30 years, and now they're doing this to us. They're not. As we tell our clients, all you are is a number. There is no more, hey, this Mr. Jones is this, Mr. Jones lives here. Here's our adjuster that lives 2 blocks away, and he's been in the construction industry, and everyone knows each other. That those days are gone. The new adjusters are fresh out of college, and all they get is, here's what we don't pay for. Here's a list. We don't pay for this. Why don't you pay for this if the client's owed it? Well, we just don't pay for it. It's in our guidelines. It's not in the policy though. So the insurance, and we talked about this before the show, it has shifted, right? From that, we want to take care of the client and we have eye for coverage. Now they have eye for denial. And we're seeing it every day. Agents like yourself and other agents are calling us for their clients. Agents aren't supposed to call Ps, but they are, because a good agent wants to help their client. And if he insured them well, they should be covered for their loss, but they're not. they're being denied, they're being investigated. We have clients that have gone through 3 examinations under oath. Clients that have been denied because they filled the proof of loss wrong. Like it's like someone who would have shown them how to fill that out. What makes us different is construction is just one side, right? Everyone in our office has somehow done some kind of construction. So that helps when we're writing estimates and we're negotiating what the damage is. But then you have policy interpretation, knowing the policy. Most adjusters, 99% of them, don't even know the policy. When we ask, hey, where is it in the policy? Well, let me request the policy. Let me look for it. They don't even know. We have one loss where they literally quoted a denial. And then when we asked for the policy, that exclusion wasn't in the policy. They literally just used an exclusion from another policy.
Yeah, I that does not even surprise me. I know I've personally have bought a policy only to get a separate form delivered to me, and not able to make sense of what is, kind of thing. So there's a lot of words on the page.
It's supposed to be easy language, right? Where the consumer is supposed to understand it. But if you read a policy, I mean, that language isn't it for an attorney? Attorney might have a hard time reading that language.
Yeah, no, I've had many attorneys call me, asking what is and that. And I think that the big picture that I've come to understand is a lot of the words are left to interpretation, and depending on who's reading the words, can influence the interpretation. So if you have a shift in the mindset of whoever the manager or the claims department is at the particular company, they can say, well, we don't do that anymore, but that's why courts exist. And a lot of times, a lot of an insurance policy has been perfected in court because it's been challenged, and that's how you get to the what is a standard kind of thing. So we talked a little bit about the claim, and you guys coming in and working with the customer, and now do you take over the negotiations then? Is that
we do? We take over a discussion of the policy, discussion of the settlement for whatever coverage we're taking care of. Yes, we handle everything. So our client is kind of on that on the side. They get their updates. We actually have a CRM program now that allows our clients to actually follow the claim as we work it, to kind of follow where we're at with the claim, the emails we send and the phone conversations we have with the insurance company. They actually get to see what we're doing, and that way they can kind of stay up to date of how the claim's being handled.
And then do you also contract with the providers to rebuild, or?
No. So we stay out of the construction. We always tell our clients, you're free to call whoever you want. Let's get the claim settled. Once you have that settlement, that's your settlement, then you can get bids. But that settlement is yours, right? Because the restoration guys are smart. They know they don't have contracts that state an amount. They just say, we will do everything the insurance pays for, which is 100% of your settlement. Whereas we tell our clients, why don't you ask that same contractor to get you an estimate? They won't. But most other contractors will come in and their bids are going to be way lower than our settlements.
So let's walk through that one more time, because I think this is kind of again, the person that just had the fire and is kind of a state of shock, doesn't know what to do, and they've turned in something to the insurance company. Now they're finding out that, there's all sorts of additional steps.
Right.
You guys work with the insurance company for a number to put the property back together, right?
Correct.
And how is that number generated? Are you working up an estimate, or is the insurance company working up an estimate? Is there a contractor that's involved to work up the estimate?
That's a really good question. So there's a program that 90% of the insurance company use, which is called Xactimate, which is the program we use to build our estimates on. There's another program that some insurance companies have moved on to, but we do use a program. The difference is, how well are you trained in that program? Because that program is just a tool. And some losses, in some, for example, fires, you have to get bids, because this is just a program that is a guideline tool. Which a lot of the insurance companies do is say, well, this program is saying that this amount this is what we pay for. Well, that's not true, because everyone in this market is charging double. So sometimes we do have to get bids from contractors, especially on commercial losses. That's when you want the bids. So that's when we actually have to go out, meet with contractors and get bids and put our stuff together to make sure that our client is getting the right amount.
Okay, so the exactimate is like a starting point, like a blue book on a car value kind
It's
of thing. Is it?
basically the guideline of how we come to an agreement, and then we can adjust the numbers in there. But it's kind of the middle where we start off at. Correct.
Okay, and then the contractor estimates are what it's likely to be. What it would, I mean, if the contractor was hired, they would put it back together for that price. Is that
Correct. So when we get bids, it's usually for specialty trades, meaning all the bids, if your whole house is on fire and you had a fire and we adjust it, the amount you have for that loss is going to be much more significant than any other contractor if you get bids. That's guaranteed. What happens is in some cases where we have a commercial foundation loss, well, we know the system's given us an estimate of 50,000, but it's commercial. And this system is a residential program. So let's get a couple bids from commercial contractors that do foundation to make sure that our software, that whatever we did, is giving us the right amount.
Gotcha. So we do the exactimate, we get a number, get some bids, get
Mhm.
another number, and is it between those that you guys then work with the insurance company to get to a settlement number?
Correct. So whatever estimate we provide them is the number we know that the insured is owed. That is the number that he needs to be fully identified to be put back. And what we tell our clients, because what happens with a lot of people, they hear, okay, well, I had a fire. The insurance company is saying they have a contractor, he's gonna go in, he's gonna do everything. And then I said, okay, well, why don't you let us handle the loss, negotiate it. Once we get you your settlement, why don't you get bids from that same contractor and a couple other ones? Well, that contractor is saying you guys charge a fee. Yeah, we charge a fee, but our fee is not 100% because that is what the contractors, their vendors are taking. They're taking every penny plus your deductible, plus any upgrades you're going to want to do to the house. They're going to take everything from you. And they're in control of the money, not you. So if the work is shady or something like that, they're getting the check sent to them. So you have no control over your loss. You come into the house and you're like, well, why is it taking so long? Why? Well, we're still arguing with the insurance. We think they should pay for this, and they're in control. It's not much you can do.
So when someone hires a public adjuster, you do the negotiation, but then the settlement gets paid to the insured. Is that right?
100%. Now it's
Okay.
going to have our name on the check, the insured's name on the check, and then if there's a mortgage, the mortgage company, because that check was going to have to go to a mortgage company. But the insured gets the check, not
Okay.
the contractors. And then the insured knows how much money he has, and now he can get estimates from local contractors.
Okay. And then tell me a little bit about your guys' fee. How is that?
So
How
we
do you-
charge a flat standard fee in every state we work in is a 10%. Is whatever we recover is 10%. If we come in a situation where I looked at a property yesterday, insured got an amount, and we feel there's another 10, 20,000 that they should recover, then our fee would be adjusted. We'd maybe charge 20, 25 on the extra money we recover, but not on what
Gotcha.
the client was received already.
So if they received a settlement, but then you got an increase, you'd be working on just the increase, or
Yes,
is
sir.
that what I?
That's
Okay.
how we work it. Correct. Every PA does it differently. Some PAs charge more than 10, 20, some states limit PAs, like Texas, is standard is 10%. You can't charge more than 10%. And then some states you can charge any amount. Just depends on the state you're working.
Got it. So I want to back up and revisit the point you were making about when somebody works with the insurance company adjuster, the insurance company adjuster introduces a contractor. That contractor basically is then trying to negotiate with the insured to have them sign up to use their services. Is that, because I think this is where it all kind of gets fuzzy. Is like you don't know who the
Correct.
parties are.
Yeah. And the adjusters and everyone else is going to tell you, well, you don't need a PA. You don't have to hire a PA. Again, that's the whole point. There's not even anywhere that says there's a PA. People don't even know about that service.
Right.
But as soon as a client starts mentioning that I might hire a third party, like, whoa, no, you don't, that's that gets into that mess. But when it comes to the client and the adjuster and the contractors, all those people are there. The contractors there for the insurance company. So what they're doing even now is the adjusters are sending out the contractors to give them estimates. So the contractor knows that if you don't sign this work authorization, why am I going to go and spend 2 hours here, do an estimate and do all this work if you're not even going to use me for the repairs? So I'm just going to put something quick together and send it to the adjuster, right? Or they'll write a low estimate, you sign a contract with them, and then they start saying to the insurance, hey, you have to pay for this, and we still want this. It's kind of like a game. It's become, who can get control of the money and be in control of the claim. So the insured is kind of left out always in the dark.
Yeah, and again, I think it goes back to the insured is not familiar with how insurance works. They buy it thinking that there's this promise of everything's going to be put back together, and that the insurance company is the good guys coming to work on their behalf. And at the end of the day, the insurance company is basically a checkbook, and if they can pay less, they're happy to pay less. I'm not saying that they're always bad people at the insurance company, but they're profit driven, like any business.
That's exactly their profit.
Yeah, and if they're paying out more that they didn't need to, then that's off their top, and they've got investors and mandates to try and get profits and all that. So it is a an interesting relationship. On the front end, there's the promise and this like you're going to be in such good care. On the back end, when you're in the throes of claim and trying to work your way through and get your settlement, you see the other side of the business, and it's just it's different. So I wanted to ask you, so now so we're working with you. We didn't go with the or we didn't go with the company adjuster, or we've turned the claim over to you. The check comes to us. You get your fee. We have this, money that's hopefully enough to put everything back together. You're saying at that point get the bids, or would you have gotten?
So we advise our clients to get bids as we're moving the claim forward, to start getting bids from a GC, from different subs, and just start getting estimates. But those estimates are for you, not for the insurance company. I don't even want to see those estimates, because I know on residential especially that we are going to be way higher than any estimate that you are going to have enough more than to pay us, even if we charge you 40%, and still have enough money to pay those contractors off.
Okay. And so with the we get the bids net. I know a lot of times, like the way insurance companies, or the way the policy is written with replacement costs, usually the initial payment is an actual cash value settlement. So if let's just say, for round numbers, that the number you and the insurance company agree on is 100, that to put it back together, they're usually going to give an initial payment of, say, 55 or 60, expecting that they'll owe the balance, but you have to first put it back together before they're going to pay the balance. How do you guys work through that, and how does that?
Yeah, so that's usually on the insured, for them to do the repairs and then send the certificate of completion to the insurance company. What the insurance wants to see is that you spent the money, that you did the repairs. Most insurance companies, as long as they see that you have a contractor, a signed contract, they can release the depreciation. Some companies will want a certificate of completion, and some companies will want an invoice from the contractor. And that all happens when the work is completed. We're usually not involved in that process anymore.
Okay, but along those lines, though, I guess here's where I've seen things get complicated. Is the numbers agreed to, the contractors are involved. Then all of a sudden, there's this request for all this additional paperwork and receipts and all this stuff in order to get the balance of the money. Do you work with your clients at all to do that? Because that seems to me that's if you've got this number you've agreed to, how do you go about proving that the work was done, and are you able to meet that number, or get that number that you had originally thought you were going to get?
So something we do once we settle a claim, Darren, is we ask the insurance, how do we recover? How does our client recover the depreciation? Okay, well, we're going to need a certificate of completion, or we'll need an invoice. Great. If they start making demands that are not in a policy, and our client says, hey, I sent them an invoice and they're saying I need receipts and I got to show them every penny I spent. Okay, let me reach out to adjusters. Let me talk to them, because unless it states in a policy something, which is why we ask for it before the client does the work, is so they understand what needs to be provided. Right? If they start saying you need receipts and you need all this stuff, anything that they're asking outside of the policy there is unreasonable demand, which is per statute in every state it's illegal. They can't make unreasonable demands, but yet they do. They ask for stuff that's not in the policy. All the policy usually states is that the repairs have to be complete.
So this is really, I mean, anybody listening that hasn't been through a claim probably doesn't, really understand the importance of what you just said. Because the adjuster, in my experience, is going to ask for receipts to prove that the work was done. And when you do that, are you opening yourself up to additional scrutiny to get less than what you had already agreed to?
Well, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for, well, if we paid you 50 for that box of nails and you only spent 25, great. We don't have to send you the depreciation amount. Which and what we realize is, first of all, when we settle a loss and we negotiate it, we're trying to get the top actual cash value. We want the depreciation to be as low as you can. And that's something we negotiate, because we want our clients to get as much as upfront they can as possible, right? And then it comes in depreciations left over, is that whether you spent whatever you did with the money, or as long as you did the repairs and the home is back to pre-loss condition, and the policy doesn't state anything extra, that you performed all your duties as the insured, and you have the right. You have to go by that policy. So what happens with insurance companies now is they say, well, the guideline is this. Well, we want this, and we have these demands, and we have these guidelines. None of that matters, because the policy is the binding contract you have with the insurance company. And what it states in the, there's duties after a loss that you have to perform, but then they have duties as the insurance company. And if the policy states, once the repairs are complete, we will release the depreciation, and there's nothing else to argue. It's in the policy.
Got it. Well, I think that's really, really important for people to hear and recognize that it's the duties. And once you've done the duties, they have to do their duties, and you don't have to go beyond that kind of thing. But really understanding that, because it does get into just a complete nightmare of trying to decipher the amounts and stuff. If you're trying to, use the Xactimate and then trying to use spreadsheets, and the payments are showing up, sporadically. There's no mention as to what they're paying for. It's just a number, and you're trying to account for everything.
And here's one thing. Why aren't those requests asked for when the insurance vendor is doing the repairs? Because when the vendor is doing the repairs, no one's asking about receipts. No one's asking about anything. Oh, the repairs are complete. Great. We'll send the final amount. Why aren't they asking how much the contractor spent, their vendor spent?
Right.
You see, that never comes into play. But as soon as the insured wants to go and handle his own claim and do it the right way, he gets scrutinized, and you start getting the delays and the denials and everything else.
Right.
They don't like that.
No, that's very, very important. And again, easy to get caught in as an insured. And what's really weird for me is, having, been in insurance for as long as I have, you kind of get indoctrinated into thinking that the company adjuster and the company adjuster and everybody's going to take care of things. But I got to tell you, there's been a change in the last 30 years in the way insurance companies have handled things or claims, and it's just, you will not get what you thought you were going to get, or not necessarily get what you were owed, if you try and do it all yourself. Because I've just seen that snowball into just just a disaster. I've had people, try and be their own general and not fully understand what it is, and not get people involved like yourself that can actually negotiate a better settlement, and then also get the work done at a price that makes sense to where, I mean, at the end of the day, what they're owed is they want to be put back together, made whole. That's really, if everybody is made whole and you know, they get with that, I think most people would be happy. They get extra, then so be it. But the reality is just to be put back to whole. And I've seen numerous people not get back to whole, and that's the real frustration.
It's nice to hear that from an agent and from people on the insurance side, and we see it every day, and we hear it. The last 30 years have changed, and it's only going to get worse for the insured. And we see it because we get the calls. I can give you an example of a young lady that just called us. She had a water loss in Arizona. She's been working claims. She's been a staff adjuster for 20 years for one of the largest, Army insurance companies. You probably know who I'm talking about. And the last year, she kept the same insurance with that company that she was working for 20 years. But the last year, she moved on to a different insurance company. But she had the water loss with the previous one that she worked for. And she called us. And she said, I've been working this claim 3 months, my own loss, my whole house got, water pipe broke. And they're not paying for this. They're not doing this. 3 adjusters have come out. She's like, I don't know what to do. I've been doing this for this long. What is going on? I'm like, welcome to the new, how claims are handled. The carrier she's working for is one of the better ones that pays for everything. They're a really good insurance company. So I'm like, yeah, that's where that company and everyone else is going, that route.
Yeah. No, it's eye-opening, and again, it's kind of a shift of the tide, and I think there's new algorithms or whatever it is that the bean counters have figured out how to make more money, kind of thing, and improve their bottom line. But it's not unique. I mean, most industries go through some sort of a thing like this, but it's frustrating when you see it change. Let me ask you this: how do the insurance companies respond or react when they realize that a public adjuster is engaged?
It depends on the insurance company and it depends on the adjuster. Mostly the adjuster. Some adjusters are super happy. Great, I got a PA. This is going to go smooth. He's going to do all the work for me. We're going to meet, settle it. We're done. Right? They like that because they have so many claims, and most of them don't even know how to write estimates or takes them long. So they're happy. They meet with us. They get all the documents. It goes really quick. And then you get 1 out of 10 that goes, well, why is that client hiring you? Or why do they need you? Wow. I don't know, because maybe you underpaid them by 100,000. Right. So it just depends on the adjuster. There's a company in Illinois, and I'm not going to say the name of the insurance company, that's really going after PAs for some reason. And literally they will call the client and say, hey, do you know why'd you sign a contract with them? And why are you doing this for him? I mean, it's just it's getting out of hand, but the Department of Insurance won't do anything about it. So we're kind of left in the dark, just trying to help people. And the insurance company literally will call them and try to do everything they can to make sure they don't use the PA.
Interesting.
I literally, that on the loss, even the adjuster talked to the insured's like, no, we're going with Andy. We've already discussed this. He was recommended. Literally the next day, the agent called and said, hey, I just got a call from the adjuster. Why are you going with the PA? What do you think, he's going to get you a new TV and new thing? And correct. Yeah, that is happening. So unfortunately. So.
Well, and it goes back to, if there wasn't a need in the first place, you guys wouldn't exist.
Right.
So that's good. Hey, what is, if you had to describe an ideal opportunity for someone to engage a public adjuster, what would the ideal opportunity be, and when would you recommend that they engage you? We've talked a little bit like in the risk or in the in a claim as soon as possible, but does it make sense to engage like as a relationship before a claim?
You should. And again, it's hard to find a good PA, right? And then not each PA does the same thing. Some public adjusters do roofing claims, residential, maybe smaller claims, whereas we handle large claims. That's kind of what we focus on since the beginning of the company. But once you have that PA and if you've done your due diligence, there's really no need to go and call around for PAs unless you have a big real estate team and you have an attorney, you have everyone, then maybe then you go and search for that PA to have on your team to be ready. Because if something does happen, you want that PA to be notified right away. You want him to go to that loss, like we do, inspect it and say, okay, Darren, there's a small water lake. This is not even covered in your policy. Or, hey, this is going to not even go beyond above your deductible. So it's not worth filing this claim. Right. Whereas then we can advise, okay, this is a claim you want to file and this is how it's going to go. So you want that PA right in the beginning. And if you're a bigger investor and landlord and you have other properties, then yeah, I would call around and ask friends for referrals or look online and interview a couple of PAs and make sure he's on your team ready to go. It's worth every penny. It really is.
Good advice. And if we could, I'd like to shift gears for a second. As I've mentioned, by day, I'm an insurance broker. And as such, I work with my clients to assess risk and determine what to do with the risk. And there's 3 strategies we typically consider. We first look to see if we can avoid the risk. When that's not an option, we look to see if there's a way we can minimize the risk. And when avoid nor minimize are options to the risk, we look to see if we can transfer the risk. And that's what an insurance policy is. And as such, I like to ask my guests if they can look at their own situation. Could be your clients, insurance companies, the interest rates, the market, the public policy, however you want to frame the question. But if you can identify what you consider to be the biggest risk, and again, for clarification, while I am an insurance broker, I'm not necessarily looking for an insurance related answer. And so if you're willing, I'd like to ask you, Andy Gurczak, what is the biggest risk?
I think my answer, if it's not insurance related, would be fear. Fear would be the biggest risk. Like you said, fear is what holds people back. Is you want to transfer that? You said you want to minimize that risk. Fear. To me, when I look at what's the risk? Well, the risk is fear. If I don't do something and being scared to go out there and do something or call that PA, or to me, that's a risk because that fear is holding you back. And you can't avoid risk, right? You can minimize it, you can transfer it, but you can't avoid it. So I would say fear is what kind of was in my head the whole time. I don't know if that's the right answer. I'm not good at these quick answers. So,
well, I think the important point to note is that risk is everywhere, and if fear is, fear is it's real. It's out there, and depending on what you're facing, your fear can be greater or less based on your experience and what you know, or probably I would assume experience is probably one of the most beneficial to any kind of situation, which would kind of mitigate your fear. If you've been through something, you survived it once before, kind of thing. But that's good.
When you look to buy a property, and what's the risk when I'm looking at the property? What's the risk? I'm looking at the good and bads of the property. At the end, what's holding us back? It's kind of the fear. You look at the risk, but it's the fear is the main one that's holding us back. Some people will analyze a property for weeks, not pull the trigger, not because of the risk is this or this. It's because that fear is the main reason.
Yeah. Nope, I've been that guy, so know that one well. Hey, Andy, where can the listeners go if they would like to learn more or connect with you?
Yeah, they can check us out on Facebook, LinkedIn, on our website, allcityadjusting.com. And if any of your clients or any of your listeners want to call me directly, they can reach me on my cell phone. I'll provide that for your listeners. They can call me directly, text me if they want advice on claims or any help, even reading policies. They can call me directly at 708-655-4186, 708-655-4186. And that's my cell phone. So the only thing I ask is, maybe don't call me after 6 or 7 p.m. Yeah. Anything else is okay.
I got it.
Then my wife gets upset.
Yeah, I get you. Hey, Andy, I can't say thanks enough for taking the time to talk today. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, learned a lot, and look forward to doing it again soon.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate you having me on. And again, big thanks. And it's nice to see, agents in this industry that actually care about their clients. So it's really good.
Agreed. For our listeners, if you like this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, the more you know, the more you grow. That's all we've got this week. Until next time, thanks for listening to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CREPN Radio.